underneath the grave advance to the gold medal game.
All right, we're back with another poem, and this one, I must say, has a plethora of inspiration. So all of the videos that I doom scroll through to get to this point will be in the description below. So we'll see. I haven't really touched on something like this, therefore I'm making it sound really dramatic. It's really about basketball. I'm just nervous about how it sounds. So the poem is called How Competition Steps Aside to Make Room for Gratitude. All right, and the clip at the beginning that you see is context for what gave this poem its breath. After the buzzer, I look up, and there they are. Time loosens its grip. 3 figures still standing after the storm has learned their names. Lebron, Durant, Curry. 3 monoliths, yes, but not stone. They have crossed that threshold where effort hardens into legend, where repetition becomes permanent. They move, they sweat, they laugh like the world is not watching, and then remember the world is always watching. It is strange how greatness can still look surprised to be alive inside its own name. I see them as miracles with receipts, as proof that 1,000 small yesterdays can stack into a body that does not flinch. There is an inescapable pull between them, a mutuality you cannot fake, something sports makes obvious because it leaves a trail. You can trace it. You can point to the moments, you can rewind the damage and the beauty until the past becomes a hand resting on the shoulder of the present. How small, seemingly insignificant pasts shape the identity of the future we pretend arrived by itself. Our present footprints pressed into moments that were never truly gone. They embrace briefly. Like the court has turned into a narrow bridge, and only for a breath, they let themselves be only men, carrying the weight of a country's favorite element, gold, a color heavy with history, won and re-won and mythologized. Rivals by design, brothers by consequence. They have battled each other like weather systems. They have made arenas feel like hurricanes. They have made children believe in physics because they broke it politely and returned it with interest. Years of collision, of mirror-matched nights, of rewriting each other's ceilings. And once they teamed up to combat one. I watched that from a living room, from the soft distance of furniture, from the safety of not being the one whose lungs burn for a flag, whose hands shake for a rim, whose name becomes a chant or a weapon. I watched it then, and now I watch it confluence, as if time has been planning to fold these men into one frame at the perfect hour. But the medal is incidental. This was never just about them, not fully. What matters is the moment when the past briefly shows its seams. Children counting dribbles the way others count prayers. All of that rushes forward now, converging in one breath, one pause, one shared stillness. I look past them because the camera catches something else and my eyes follow it like a magnet follows its own law. If you look closely, you'll see Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards stands just outside the center of it, caught between proximity and distance, between arrival and awe, not on a poster, not in a memory, not in the imagination stage, but here, standing in the real light, where your childhood cannot protect you from the truth of what you want. He is looking at them the way you look at monuments when you are trying to decide whether you are brave enough to become one. And I see the kid behind the man, the kid who came in and did not ask but took what belonged to him and forced us to see him, forced the league to adjust its mirrors, forced the broadcast to widen its sentence, forced the future to admit it had been arriving quietly. He forced the future to stand down. He grew up watching these players battle. He memorized them in highlight language, in commercials, in the myth-making of television, in the sacred repetition of names spoken by people who did not know him yet. And now he is on the court with them, not as a visitor, not as a fan in disguise, but as an ally in the same uniformed hunger. Standing shoulder to shoulder with inevitability, he is suddenly younger, not smaller, just earlier. In that moment, he watches like a child. He is close enough to hear their breath, close enough to feel the heat of their history, close enough to belong, and yet his eyes hold that old distance, that living room space, that private awe that no training regimen can erase. Because something happens to the heart when the people who made your world possible become people you can touch and see. The body understands first, this is real. These are not pixels. These are not legends behind glass. These are men, and their arms around each other are not a marketing image, but a fact, a fleeting truce between rival storms who learned the same sky. These are not just players to him, they are reference points, blueprints, proof that time can be negotiated if you argue well enough with work. And Anthony stands there with the kind of stillness that is louder than celebration. His face says, "So this is what it looks like when the finish line admits it was never the end." His face says, "If they can meet here after all that history, then my future is not a dream. It is a direction." And my perspective shifts. I am not only watching them anymore, I am watching the watching. I am watching inheritance become immediate. I am watching the torch learn the temperature of the hand that will one day carry it without shaking. I am watching the young men look at the old gods and realize they are not gods at all, just people who refused to stop until refusal became form. The moment the way a breath holds before you speak your true name. And somewhere in that brief embrace, in the near silent circle of bodies, sports becomes what it always threatens to be, a map of connectivity, a record of how we are pulled toward each other, a ledger of battles that end sometimes in mutual respect. Gold is the word on the surface, mutuality is the current beneath. And Anthony Edwards, standing among monuments, is not smaller for being young. He is the next weight. He is the next story that will be traced later by someone on a couch thinking, I saw him first as a kid, watching the future arrive. And back to the moment for a refresher. He grew up watching them split seasons apart, watching greatness cannibalize greatness, watching alliances form only to dissolve under the weight of ambition. And now they are all here, all on one side. And he is with them, not watching from a couch, not reaching through a screen, but sharing the floor that once felt unreachable. Still, for a brief second, he watches anyway, not because he does not belong, but because belonging does not erase reverence. This is how lineage works. The monument does not crumble when the next stone is laid beside it. It simply casts a longer shadow. And somewhere in that shadow, a future learns its shape. After the buzzer, the game is over. And yet, everything is just beginning. Thank you.